What's up everyone, I am the Kaiju no Kami, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a nice, feel-good, wholesome movie from 2003 known as Sky High. Based on a comic, Sky High is the story about a high school for teenagers with superpowers. Kurt Russell plays a superhero deemed the Commander, who is one of the world's most famous I don't think this is the right movie. The Sky High I'm reviewing is a Japanese film from the director of Godzilla Final Wars, Ryuhei Kitamura? This movie is definitely not it. In fact, isn't this the superhero movie Disney made so bad that they realized they had to buy a comic company in order to make good superhero movies? Based on a manga by Tsutomu Takahashi, Sky High is the story about death. When a person violently dies, they are taken to the Gates of Rage where they are confronted by a guardian warrior named Izuko. Most of those who meet Izuko have no memory of how they got there, so it is her job to restore their memories of how they died and then offer them 3 choices. The first is that they can just accept their death and move on to heaven and await reincarnation. Oh great. Now I'm just picturing that heaven is actually one giant hallway with a big line as if you're in an anime convention. The second allows them to traverse the world as a ghost. The final choice is to curse their murderer with a horrible death. While the third option does sound like the most fun, it is not without its consequences, for it then condemns the individual to spend the rest of eternity in hell. Sky High was initially adapted into a 12-episode TV series that starred Godzilla against Mechagodzilla's Yumiko Shaku as Izuko, but then became popular enough to have a feature-length film that would act as an origin story showing us how Shaku's character became Izuko. For Izuko is the name of anyone who takes up the job of being the guardian to the Gates of Rage. Is Sky High a movie to die for? Or should you keep this one off your bucket list? Let's watch to find out. Our film opens up with a bunch of cops storming a building that houses a hanging body. How did the killer get her all the way up there? This is where we meet Detective Kohei Kanzaki, played by Godzilla vs. Megagearus' Shosuke Tanahara. We come to learn that this girl is the 3rd victim to have been found with her heart ripped out, which has baffled police. The next day, Kanzaki is taken to the church he is getting married at, only for his wife, Shaku's Minaseki, to stumble down the aisle. You could say that she didn't have the heart to get married. After a quick 90s-like CGI tunnel scene, we are taken to the Gates of Rage where Mina is confronted by its guardian Izuko. Yokoso. Urami no mon e. Watashi wa urami no mon ban. Izuko. If you have seen either Audition or Tokyo Gore Police, you may recognize actress Eihi Shina, for she starred in both films. Izuko offers Mina the 3 choices I mentioned earlier, telling her she is allowed to watch those she knew in life for the next 12 days while she mulls over her options. It is here where Mina comes to learn Kanzaki is out to avenge her whatever the cost. Additionally, Izuko gives Mina the ability to recall what happened to her at the time of her death. Totally a missed opportunity to have him say, "Be still thy beating heart." After illegally obtaining some guns from police evidence, Kanzaki is confronted by Naho Toda's Kyoko Ayama, the mortician. They have some coffee together where he confides in her with his plan to kill Mina's murderer, and she tells him about her belief about death not being the end given her history with dead bodies. She also tells him about a photographer friend who once took a strange picture of an airplane he was going to be on. 私の友達にカメラマンがいてね、飛行機に乗る前にポラロイド写真を撮ったの。そしたら飛行機を掴む大きな手が映ってたの。それで怖くなって旅行をやめたら、その飛行機墜落したのよ。Kanzaki blows her off and heads back to the church to do some intense thinking. Hey, look at that. Kitamura was doing inverted running before Christopher Nolan made it cool. he comes to realize there was an estranged woman there he did not recognize. Because apparently the only people allowed at the church that day were people he knew? At the same time, we get to meet journalist Sayuri Toyama, who is sneaking into work late using her best Solid Snake impersonation. I absolutely love how dramatic the music makes this action seem. Her boss informs her that she has been tasked with interviewing an infamous geneticist by the name of Tatsuya Kudo, who requested her by name.
何ぼっとしてんだよ。工藤達也で関東特集組むからな、しっかりやれよ。
はい、頑張ります。
いいか？絶対遅刻するなよ。
はい。
猫背直せ。愛想笑いやめろ。
From there, we get to meet Tatsuya and his secretary Rei, who are attacked by a bunch of low-rent thugs. Unfortunately for them, Tatsuya and Rei beat their asses into the ground with ease, showing us that these two are not an ordinary geneticist and secretary. I should also mention that this duo is played by Takao Osawa and Kane Oatani, who were also starred in another Kitamura film, Aragami, with Oatani also appearing as one of the ex-aliens in Godzilla Final Wars. Tatsuya flirts with Sayuri during his interview with her, while her photographer, Hiromasa Taguchi's Kazuo Kishi, gets a stern look of disgust from Rei for taking her picture.
どうにもならないことある。例えば、世の中にはどんなにお金があっても手に入らないものがある。
愛ですか？
まあそんなものかな。
Kishi is developing the photos, noticing something odd about one of them. Kanzaki considers blowing his brains out, only to be stopped by Mina's lament. Seconds later, he gets a call from Kyoko and we cut to him meeting up with her and Kishi, who hands him the ghostly premonition. Kishi notices a picture of Rei in Kanzaki's possession, informing him as to who she is. Mina takes a look at the photo and is instantly triggered by this. She visits Tatsuya, who can actually see her. He reveals to her that his wife has been in a coma from a brain disease he is unable to cure before Rei nearly impales her with a sword. Mina is saved by the spirit of Tatsuya's third victim, Maya. The duo return to Izuko, who explains that the four girls were murdered because they were each previous guardians before being reborn onto the land of the living.
前世なんて関係ないじゃない。私は覚えてないのよ。なんでそんなことで殺されなきゃならないのよ。
Back to Kanzaki and gang, Kishi manages to get into contact with Sayuri, learning she is attending a concert with Tatsuya and promptly hangs up on him.
デート中はしつこく電話してこないでください。っていうか、もう二度と電話しないでくださいね。
They deduce her location. Ha 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 ha! Death in the Maiden. So fitting. Sayuri finds herself standing in an empty concert hall. She waltzes down to the stage where our four ghostly girls try to warn her, only for two of them to be cut down by Rei's blade before she delivers the killing strike on Sayuri. Kanzaki and Kishi arrive to find Sayuri hanging around. They locate Tatsuya and Rei in the parking lot, and when Kishi tries to attack them, Rei inflicts him with a curse of sorts. Kishi informs Kanzaki and Kyoko of an exorcist who could help them, and they head to her. Izuko confronts Tatsuya and Rei.
お前たちが現世で何をしようと勝手だ。だが恨みの門に来た魂にまで手を出すことは許せない。
Round 1. Fight!
呪いの呪文よ。そう。この剣は死者でも切れる。
Anyone else notice that Izuko's face looks like it's reading, that wasn't supposed to happen? She returns to the Gates of Rage and passes her abilities to her new successor, Mina, before vanishing.
今からあなたが門番よ。
私
Sayuri appears before the gates and after being told what happened, chooses to be reincarnated.
ここまで来て初めての独占取材。そしたらその相手に殺されるなんてね。再生してもう一度生き直す。今度こそやるべきことをやるの。
Maya decides to do the same. The next day, the Kanzaki trio meet the exorcist Kamina, who removes the curse from Kishi. Kamina exposits the entire plot of the film, informing them that Tatsuya is collecting the hearts of previous guardians for a sacrificial ritual that will restore his wife to life while condemning the rest of the world to hell.
Well, Christ on a stick. I guess there is a god.
Mina, or rather Izuko, visits Tatsuya's wife to tell her what he has been up to, and she chooses it is best for her to pass on. Speaking of Tatsuya, he and Rei arrive at Kamina's temple and a great battle begins. Kamina and Rei clash. While Kanzaki deals with Tatsuya.
ならやるがいい。そんなに憎いなら俺を殺して視界の書を奪えばいい。ふざけんな！
Unable to kill Kamina, Rei rips out her own heart for Tatsuya, unveiling that she too was a former guardian. Tatsuya goads Kishi into shooting him, which allows him to stand before the gates of rage.
俺はエリの命を奪ったこの世界を呪う。
そんな選択認められないわ。
お前に言ってんじゃねえ。向こうのやつに言ってんだ。
Another duel kicks off, this time between Tatsuya and Izuko. Kanzaki gets Kishi to shoot him as well so that he may assist Izuko in putting an end to Tatsuya's wicked plot. You're already screwed. What's another murder on your hands? Tatsuya finally sees the error of his way, and Mina gives him his options.
俺自身を呪う。
The option was to curse a living soul. You're already dead. Judge's call?
お行きなさい。
I guess they accept. Lucky bastard. Kanzaki and Izuko share a moment before he is resuscitated.
私もあなたと一緒にいたいと思ってた。でも私は人生奪われて初めて生きることの素晴らしさを知ったの。人は死んでも終わらない。だからこそ大切なのは人生を精一杯生きることなの。
Don't worry, he's a cop. So it's probably not gonna be too long before you see him again. We then see Kanzaki spending a time at a beach, accepting the loss of Mina before showing us Izuko greeting a new spirit just before the credits roll. And that was Sky High, one of my favorite non-kaiju Japanese films of all time. I'm not sure what it is about this film that I absolutely love, because there is so much to it. Maybe it's the whole grim story about getting to see what happens to those who die as opposed to those who continue living. Or it could be the intriguing concept of the victim being given the 3 different options into how to proceed with their death. It could also just be how incredible the cinematography and music are in this film. Then again, it's most likely all of the above. Ever since I somehow accidentally stumbled across the very existence of this film back back when it was first hitting DVD in Japan in 2003, I was so intrigued by its plot that I imported the disc immediately, which thankfully included English subtitles, something that was a rarity for Region 2 DVDs. And ever since that day I first watched this film, I was in love with it.
Well, if you love them so much, why don't you marry them?
Never mind.
The acting may not always be high-end, nevertheless, the performances the cast provides show they were clearly enjoying their time on set while giving it their all. Another strong point about the characters is that every one of them serves a purpose, rendering it impossible to remove one from the equation without disrupting the entire film's story. You really feel sorry for the lives of Mina and Kanzaki being ripped asunder, yet Tatsuya's motivations in wanting to restore his comatose wife allows him to be relatable to many despite the despicable means he must go through in order to achieve them. How far are you willing to go to save the one you love? Hell, Tatsuya even brings up this notion during his interview with Sayuri, and every one of his points are just as valid as those of his victims. It really all comes down to your own personal perceptions as to whether or not Tatsuya's actions are justified, and it's not often a movie can do that to its viewers. Furthermore, the film also raises the question as to whether or not the laws of man are comparable to the laws of the spirit world. For example, because Tatsuya has not killed anyone with his own hands, Rei has done the murdering, Tatsuya is immune to being punished and sent to hell for his transgressions. Alternatively, Kanzaki raises the point that just because Tatsuya hasn't dirtied his own hands does not make him exempt from the murders. What defines right and wrong? Should Tatsuya be punished by the laws of man because a man says such? Or should he be held accountable to the rules ordained by those who christened the world of man? What about Kishi? Is it fair to hold him responsible for trying to rescue a friend in need? Or does he deserve his punishment for not thinking his actions through before pulling the trigger? It's an interesting concept not many movies are willing to traverse. Moving on, Sky High is enhanced in his presentation for its exceptional camera angles that give it a flair of style. Whether it is one of the opening shots, the camera panning in on a group of unmoving cops, the camera rotating over Mina in the wedding chapel to reveal to us her missing heart from an inverted angle, the scene where it spins around Kanzaki and has him move in reverse as he recalls his wedding day, to the scene where Kamina is expositing to Kanzaki and his cohorts, every shot is done with great precision to make it exciting and energetic. And of course, let's not forget the phenomenal fight choreography. The skirmish with Izuko and Rei is very stylish, but I have to give it to the duel between Kamina and Rei, especially since the suspense of their clash is enhanced by the constant breaks between Kanzaki and Tatsuya, which is also partially thanks to Nobuhiko Morino's superb score. Then again, the music in this film is just golden all around. I could listen to this soundtrack for hours on end, as it knows when to sound calming before it boils your blood with ear-pleasing intensity. There's been talk about an American remake or adaptation of this film, and I just don't think the story could work for an American audience. For one thing, mainstream audiences wouldn't be able to grasp the concept of a murder victim being sent to a gate where they are given 3 options on how to proceed with themselves thanks to Christian ideology. Secondly, the filmmakers would end up setting the movie in America, and I don't think an American guardian would be able to handle the number of souls that would come her way at one time. She would come back from a 15-minute coffee break only to find numerous people at the gate and probably scream, "Again?" or something. Next, they would try to add as many in-your-face jump scares as possible. Finally, I don't believe an Americanized version would be able to recapture the philosophical symbolism this film provides, as it would try to keep everything on a basic level for the lowest common denominator. If you love dark and gritty films that delve into the supernatural, Sky High might just be for you. The TV series is not too bad either. Hell, if you just want to watch a movie that has a lot of well-shot fight scenes that can rival Kill Bill, this is the movie for you. As I've said, I love this film, and I am still saddened to this day that it never got the praise in America it deserves. But again, as I said, I just don't think the concepts would really appeal to the mainstream American audience. Nevertheless, this film rocks. Check it out. Until next time, bye.
Welcome to Sky High.
あなたは死んで